Hey folks, it's Marcus. The video you are about to watch was actually recorded a few days ago, but I wanted to record this intro section just to go over a few of the comments that you have placed in the first and second video, some things I wanted to address, and I hope to do so very quickly. Today is actually my day off, but I'm going to be uploading this video because you have all been very cool. You've been leaving a lot of awesome comments. There's been a lot of views and likes on the videos. And so obviously the more that happens, the more motivated I am to put this series out more quickly. So quid pro quo, Clarice. But anyways, a couple of you mentioned the notion that Thrones of Ascension don't make a lot of sense in the context of our campaign. And I wanted to address that because the way it works in the game is that the Thrones of Ascension are tools by which, when you claim enough of them, you ascend to godhood. And obviously, we are not interested in ascending to godhood. That is not the purpose of Ulm or the Master Smith. But it helps if you look at the Thrones of Ascension as very, very powerful magic sites. And also as kind of a hub for transmission of the Ulmish faith. You can think of them as like Wi-Fi extenders for the Ulmish faith. Since the Ulmish faith is in the power of humanity and in the power of steel, by capturing these thrones, what they are doing is they are pushing their faith out more. And so in the long run, that's a victory. So the victory that is to be achieved when the Ulmish people collect enough of the thrones to score their 11 throne points, what that represents in the real world is their power. Now bear in mind, remember now, their dominion drains magic. Their dominion is antithetical to magic. So it represents them winning in the sense that their culture, their beliefs, and their desire to eliminate magic is encompassing the entire world. So that is the victory conditions. No one's going to be ascending to godhood. It's simply a cultural domination of the world. All right, the next thing that was brought up is the use of blood magic. And again, the Master Smiths are very pragmatic, and it's not that they're good guys, okay? They're not interested in winning friends. They're interested in winning a war that they see as essential for their survival. But that being said, all we're going to be doing with blood magic is the bloodstones and the occasional sanguine dowsing rod, just to help the blood hunt go faster. So I think it'd be cool if we think of it as almost compelled blood donation, because you don't need a lot of blood to make a bloodstone. I mean, it's not like you're summoning a demon from the pits of hell. So maybe what they're doing is they're just rounding up young virgins. They're kind of, like when you go to the hospital and make a blood donation, they're taking a bit of blood and they're sending them home. And that's gonna cause a little bit of unrest still, because nobody wants to be forced into anything, especially not giving blood, but no one's getting killed. And that's a smart move anyway, because you're able to farm it. You're able to maintain the integrity of your source of blood. So let's look at it like that. That's how they're getting the blood, the very small amount of blood that they need for the bloodstones, which are tiny little things, okay? So that's my explanation for that. Next thing I want to say is a big, humongous thank you to those of you who are getting involved in the campaign by writing little stories and fan fiction in the comments. And I'm talking about Logothetes, Nerds Eternal, and especially White Heart, who wrote a really amazing little intro that followed along the lines of the first two videos and what was going on. So I just want to say I really appreciate that stuff, and I think it adds a whole lot to what we're doing. So thank you very much. And for those of you who might not even be aware of it, please go into the comments of the second video and look for these entries, because they are really good and they're putting a lot of effort into it. And also I heard Commando Stalker, he's also interested in adding some things as well. So we'll be seeing more of that. And you know what? I can't see enough of it. So the more you guys want to get involved, that's great. Fantastic. So now I return you to our originally scheduled video, and thank you very much. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Ulm, Forging Ahead. And we are finally on the game map. And let's take a moment to appreciate this beautiful map made by Mormasil. I gotta tell you, I get a kick out of that, because maybe it's just because I'm from the US and I'm just inundated with these ads on TV for medicines, but Mormasil sounds to me like a medicine name, like ask your doctor about Mormasil. if Mormosil is right for you. May cause dry mouth, blindness, death, or incontinence. But anyway, it is a beautiful map. And again, what I really love about it is it has these little buildings and ruins and such that kind of gives off the impression that this was a once civilized and developed world that has fallen into ruin. And it also has a really nice collection of terrain types. Now the first thing we want to check out is throne placement. And I think we got pretty lucky here. We have access to a throne right next to us, which actually could be unlucky depending on what kind of throne it is, because if it's a level 3 throne, it's going to be a while before we're able to conquer it, and we don't have much else around us in order to generate resources, which we absolutely need a ton of as Ulms. So there could be better start positions, like for example somewhere around here with forests and mountains all around would have been superb. We've got a swamp, plains, plains, plains. This one here is wheat fields and mountains, so this will be high income here. We do have this one forest, and that's it. So we have one mountain, one forest, and all the rest plains, and of course a swamp, which is very low income and hinders movement. So that might be a problem, but we'll do the best we can. However, we do have this throne here and this throne here, which is only 2 steps away. We have 2 more thrones down here, and another one is slightly farther away, is over here. The next thing I want to check out is how many thrones are in the water, because for the most part, we are not going to be able to make any kind of serious play for those thrones. So there's this one here, and this one here. So there's already 2 of them. And 3. Or is that... So, no, that's the one we already looked at, sorry. So, okay, it looks here like there are 2 thrones in the water. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. There's a throne here. Any nation who starts in this little area here is very lucky, because it's very defensible with a bottleneck here, here, and here. And in this case, it has access to 3 thrones and a ton of forest and mountain terrain types. I've maybe tried this map about 10 times. I've never once started here. Sometimes Black Ulm does, and it allows them to become a powerhouse. But we're okay. I mean, we're up against a neutral sea province, and one time I was up against the capital of Pelagia, so in this case we're lucky at least that eventually one of our enemies underwater is going to claim this province, but it's not going to be their capital. It's obviously much safer to have a capital inland, so you don't even have to worry about underwater empires. But hey, you know, we might get lucky and find some amphibious creatures in the swamps. Either way, we're not going to be able to put up a very strong fight against an underwater opponent, but I don't like the idea of our capital being 1 move away from our enemies, and of course they could be generating dominion from there as well. Let's talk quickly about Ulm's specific magical sites and troops. So we start off with the Keep of Ulm, which allows us to recruit 4 capital-only troops: the Black Priest, the Priest Smith, the Lord Guardian, and this Guardian is a unit, not a commander. And we also have the Forges of Ulm, which gives us 5 Earth Gems. So that is the only gem income that we start with, is 5 Earth Gems. Now, Ulm has a cool scout unit, which is the Spy. What makes the Spy useful is 2 things. The Spy, unlike a scout, can tell you precisely what is located in a province, and not just an estimate. What is really useful about that is a Spy can tell you what a throne is. So if you're in a throne province with a Spy, you know exactly what throne it is and what bonuses it gives. So we'll be using our initial Spy to scout out the thrones, to see what the thrones are that are nearby, and allow us to kind of plan ahead and see which ones we want to go for first. There is another benefit to the Spy, which is they can instill uprisings in enemy provinces. That is to say, they raise unrest in that province. And if you are able to raise unrest enough, above 100, that province can no longer produce any units. This is much more useful in a multiplayer game because there is a chance that a human opponent might be too distracted to notice that the unrest is rising in their fortified provinces. The AI, unfortunately, is not like that. They will know immediately when you're doing this. So I will not be utilizing that strategy in this Let's Play because, frankly, it just doesn't work. You would need at least 7 or so of these guys to bring a province from 0 to 100 in one turn, and in that one turn, they will all be found and killed. So there's just no real benefit to it. It takes you 7 turns to produce them, all the money, of course, it costs to produce them, for really a very temporary benefit. So I will not be utilizing my scouts, or my spies, I should say, for that purpose. Next, Ulm has 4 types of infantry commanders. There's the regular version and the Black Steel version. Now, in the great olden days of Dominions 3 and 2, the Black Steel was more of a hindrance than a help because it was very heavy. And so what you would have is you would have these very impressive armed armies of Ulm fighting off against their enemies. But what would happen is, as they reached the middle of the battlefield, they would all fall over exhausted from the sheer effort required to move their armor around. And then their much weaker enemies would be able to kill them rather easily because they weren't able to defend themselves. That didn't make a lot of sense. And so the developers kind of boosted it so that now Black Steel is somewhat viable again. We will not be producing very much of it, but at least it provides a benefit over the regular. And you can see here, so a regular commander has a defense of 12 and a protection of 18, whereas the Black Steel commander has a protection of 21 and the defense drops by 1 to make up for it. It doesn't matter, really, which one of these we produce, even though this one has lower defense, because we're not going to be using any of them for melee combat anyway, and they're all going to be given bows and such. So, as you can see here, the reason why this guy's defense is 1 lower than the other guy is because the Morning Star here has a defense negative of -2, while this guy's hammer only has -1. So, when they're not wielding their Morning Star or their hammer, it doesn't make a difference. Then you have the Black Lord. The Black Lord is an interesting unit because some people believe that it is the only recruitable thug unit for Ulm. Others counter that it is a very unreliable thug unit because, being a human, his hit points are very low. So even kitted out in really good armor and magical weapons, the odds of a Black Lord falling in battle are very high, especially compared to some other thugs, such as the giant nations and such. So, I'm not entirely sure what we're going to be doing here. The cool thing about Black Lords is you can recruit them in any castle, not just your capital, but you have to invest a certain amount of gems into them in order to make them viable, and they're not ever going to be really fantastic. So if we ever do use them, it's going to be in groups, and hopefully they will survive. But I could see us using them for occasional uses. Next we have the Siege Engineer. The real benefit of this guy is that he helps bring down walls, but that's not really useful. It is sort of, but there are items that do that as well, and every time we recruit one of these guys, that means we're not recruiting something far more valuable, which is this next guy right here, the Master Smith. The Master Smith is the main mage of Ulm and can be recruited in any castle. They have a forge bonus of 2. Now what that means in real terms is that every item they forge costs 2 less magic gems. So if an item costs 5 gems, with this bonus, it will only cost 3. And this is split amongst multi-gem items. So for example, if a gem costs 5 earth gems and 5 fire gems, it will cost 4 earth gems and 4 fire gems. So you save 2 gems, not 4, unfortunately. Another cool thing about the Master Smiths is they give a resource bonus of 10. So that means in any province where they exist, the resources go up by 10, which is very, very useful because your troops are incredibly expensive in terms of resources and in terms of cold hard cash too, but they really help for that purpose. Another cool thing about them is they're mundane researchers. And what that means is, as we mentioned when we first set up the scales of this nation, they are not hindered by the drain scale that we have in terms of their magical research. They are, however, hindered on the battlefield. But that's actually a benefit to these guys, because our Olmish troops do not have very good magic resistance, and being in a drain dominion improves your magic resistance. It makes casting spells harder, but it makes resisting spells easier. Finally, they're fire resistant, and they all come with 2 earth and 1 fire, with a 1 in 5 or 20% chance of getting an additional fire, an additional earth, an air, or an astral. Now we are going to be living and dying by which one of these we get. What we want is to get many of them that have air and astral, as they are the most rare. Though 2 fire ones are very good as well, and of course 3 earth is exceptional because that allows us access to certain spells we wouldn't otherwise have, and it makes spellcasting easier for them. Though we can emulate 3 earth pretty easy by items that we can produce. And we can produce those items fairly cheaply. So we're going to be creating a whole lot of these guys. Next we have Black Acolytes, which are basically level 1 priests and nothing else. I can't imagine us ever recruiting one of these guys, so we will not be seeing them. The next is a Black Priest. A Black Priest has 1 earth, 2 holy, and a 1 in 10% chance of fire, air, earth, or astral. The only conceivable reason I could see for producing one of these guys is because they are Inquisitors, and they are good at reducing the dominion of our enemies. Other than that, they are eclipsed in every way possible by the Priest Smith, who is only a level 1 priest, but has 2 earth, 1 fire, just like our Master Smiths, and also has the Forge bonus, and the Resource bonus, and the Mundane Researcher. I guess one reason we'd want to create these guys is the 2 holy allows them to cast the spell Sermon of Courage, which is important for Ulm because their morale is not fantastic. It's 11, they don't have really great morale. So this does help. So we may produce a couple of these guys for that purpose, to travel with armies and Sermon of Courage them. However, they are capital only. So once we get to the point where we have multiple castles, we have to choose between producing one of these guys, producing the Priest Smith, or producing the Lord Guardian. The Lord Guardian is an interesting unit, far more useful in multiplayer than single player, because it has a special ability called Halt Heretic. And what that does is it saps the energy and frightens sacred troops. So for example, again, as I mentioned in a previous episode, Ulm has always been very vulnerable to bless rushes. Well, with this unit, you can stop bless rushes in their tracks because they are designed specifically to take on sacred enemy troops, which again feeds into the theme of Ulm trying to kind of get rid of religion and magic from the world and instead focus on the power of humanity. They also have a castle defense bonus, but it's relatively small. And the Black Halberd has an effect called Bane of Heresy. And what that does is it does 15 armor-piercing stun damage to, I believe, only either magical units, or only affects sacred units. Okay. So that's an additional power that the Lord Guardian has against sacred units. So this is really an anti-sacred guy, and since the AI typically is not known for bless rushes, they don't utilize blesses very effectively, we aren't going to be seeing much of this. One final benefit for the Priest Smith. In many ways, the Priest Smith is inferior to the Master Smith, because he does not have the Master Smith's random magic pick. But what he gains from that is upkeep is half, because he is a sacred unit. And so theoretically, if you wanted to have a cool bless, it would affect him, but again, we're not interested in blessings. But he has access to 2 spells that only Ulm can cast, and that's one is called Iron Darts, and the other is called Iron Blizzard. It is very similar to the spell Blade Wind in that it shoots out a number of projectiles, but they are armor-piercing projectiles, so they are very good at clearing out large groups of enemies. I don't really care much for Iron Darts. It's rather worthless, but Iron Blizzard is a fantastic spell, and these guys, as well as these guys, are the only ones that can cast it because it requires Earth and Holy. As for our troops, our only inexpensive troop in terms of resources is our War Dog, which is an undisciplined, very mediocre unit, though it does have decent attack skill, and actually fairly decent protection. But it still costs 7 resources because it has male barding, so situational, I guess, but in my test games, I haven't produced any of these guys. They haven't really been that useful to me. What has been useful is our crossbowmen. They used to be called arbalesters because they have an arbalest. The difference between an arbalest and a crossbow is an arbalest takes, I think, 3 turns to fire, whereas a crossbow takes 2, and a regular bow can fire every turn. You make up for that, however, in the fact that the arbalest is incredibly powerful and has really good range. What's cool about these guys is that your troops, for the most part, can withstand friendly fire, since we're so heavily armored, but our enemies cannot. So you'll see me recruiting a lot of these guys. Next thing you have is Infantry of Ulm, and there are many different types of infantry, and each type of infantry comes in 2 flavors, regular and black plate. We will not be recruiting much black plate at the beginning now because we need to maximize our resources and they take up a lot. You have axe or battle axe wielding infantry. Now the conventional wisdom is that the battle axe infantry, as well as these guys here, the Maul infantry, are really good against high hit point giant enemies like Jotunheim and stuff like that. However, in the Dominion's forums, somebody, gosh, I've forgotten their name, did research and found that even in a battle against giants or large high hit point enemies, the pikeneers did a much better job than the battle axe wielders or the maul wielders, because the pike is so long it reflects. What that means is that sometimes when you're attacked by an enemy, they have to roll a dice to get through your pike in order to attack you, and if they fail, their attack fails. So you will not see us recruiting these guys ever, really, because there is no situation where they are superior to the other choices, especially to the pikeneer. You may occasionally see us recruiting these guys, and the reason why we might do that is because they have a flail, and what's unique about a flail is that it has a +2 attack versus shield, but also it has 2 attacks. So if you're fighting a horde of relatively weak infantry, these guys are useful because they could take out 2 at a time, while these guys can't. But no one else can, really. Then we have our shielded infantry. We need these guys a lot because their shield makes their protection incredibly high and their defense. However, we're never going to be recruiting the hammer-wielding shield infantry. They are not useful to me, and the hammer doesn't do much damage. Instead, we're going to be recruiting a ton of the Morningstar shield infantry, and that is because it has a +2 attack versus shield that the hammer does not. And finally, we have our pikeneers, which, as I mentioned before, have an incredibly long pike, and so they're able to repel enemies. So what you're going to be seeing the most from our armies are crossbowmen, the shielded infantry wielding the Morningstar, and the pikeneers. We're going to have the shield guys up front to soak up arrow damage, and we're going to have these guys swoop in from the back, while these guys shoot. Finally, we have the Black Knight, which is the troop version of the Black Lord. They are useful, they are tough, they're a good unit, but they're very expensive and they're very situational. You really just want to use them to get behind enemy lines and attack them from the rear. Another benefit of them is that your troops are relatively slow. So if you were to, say, rout an enemy, and you have these guys in your army, they are much more likely to be able to kill a lot of the enemy as they are fleeing the field than your regular infantry. So that avoids you having to fight the same armies over and over again. Next we have the Sapper. The Sapper is a crossbow unit that has a siege bonus. The Sapper I used to use quite a bit. I never use them now. Why? What changed? Well, the Sapper used to have 2 move, which meant they could move 2 provinces in 1 move. No other Ulmish troops have that. However, as you could see, they have been nerfed, and they no longer can do that. So they were useful at the beginning because you could immediately reinforce castles, you could move them around relatively quickly compared to your other troops, and you'd have a very mobile crossbow army. But unfortunately, that is no longer the case. So you will very rarely, if ever, see me recruit these guys. And then finally, we have the capital-only Guardians. They also have a castle defense bonus, though being capital only, we will not be recruiting very many of them. However, once we do have a number of forts up, and we are recruiting regular troops all over the place, we will switch to producing a lot of these guys simply because they are just awesome. They have great morale, and they're very strong. And their Black Halberd, like the Black Lord, has the Bane of Heresy effect against sacred units. Again, the AI does not use a lot of sacred units, but hey man, any little bit helps, and these guys are pretty powerful. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so that is the unit makeup of the Nation of Ulm. So next turn, finally, it'll be our next episode, finally, the 4th episode of our series, we'll actually start playing the game. So, whoopee! Once again, I'm Marcus Aurelius. If you have any questions about my plans or the descriptions that I gave of the units, or if you have comments as to different strategy ideas that I may not have mentioned, or uses that you can put to these units that I did not mention, by all means, put them below in the comments. Once again, I'm Marcus Aurelius. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.